Do you remember when LED light therapy first became a thing and people, including myself, didn't really know whether to believe it or not? Light being able to change our skin seemed pretty extreme. Like, how does that even work? A lot of people thought it was a scam, but their popularity has exploded in, I would say, more recent years, the last 2 to 3 years, and I wouldn't be surprised if at least you have heard of it or you've actually tried it for yourselves, because it became so available for everyone. Yes, LED masks and devices are a little bit pricier. They're about £100 more than I want to pay for anything, but they are really, really good when used consistently, right? On like a daily basis if you're using the at-home ones. But less than a decade ago, LED light therapy was relatively unheard of outside of like high-end clinics, dermatologist offices, celebrities' Instagram posts. Only NASA may have known about the healing effects of LED light as far back as the 1980s, but the general public still didn't really know about what LED light therapy could do well into the 2010s. But that all changed when Neutrogena, bless them, launched their pioneering at the time light acne therapy mask all the way back in 2016, bringing light therapy into your home basically, and especially to beauty enthusiasts. Today I want to talk about how Neutrogena caught the attention of like millions of beauty consumers and popularized a previously niche product, as well as what went wrong for them. It went really wrong, and how their brief reign as the industry's leaders in LED light therapy came to a very, very abrupt end. It's almost silly. Like, I look back at it and I'm like, this is silly. So the Neutrogena light therapy acne mask launched back in October of 2016, with the brand kind of positioning it as like this cutting edge solution for people with moderate to mild acne. As Neutrogena always did at the time, they were still pretty much just targeting this preteen, spotty teenager kind of demographic, right? And this mask promised dermatologist quality treatment at home, aiming to reduce acne causing bacteria and inflammation without using harsh or stripping chemicals. Which, let's be honest, Neutrogena was always harsh for my skin. Whenever it was targeted towards like oily skin or acne and all that kind of stuff, Neutrogena was always really harsh. They've changed their ways now, but they still have like their grapefruit shit and all that kind of stuff, which I wouldn't go within a mile of nowadays. And to promote the product, Neutrogena launched their Power of Light campaign, which was their first kind of primarily digital campaign in the US. And the campaign was made up of like short video ads and YouTube videos, as well as partnerships with influencers and public figures, such as Nash Greer, I think his name was. Remember him? He was like a huge Viner at the time. Olivia Holt, who was a Disney Channel star, which was very Neutrogena to kind of take on board a Disney Channel celebrity for their advertising. Both of these people had mass appeal with the target audience of teens and young adults. And the campaign aimed to make the product stand out by making acne treatment seem fun and exciting, something like digital and quirky and new, you know? The mask design looked cool and futuristic, and the mystique of light therapy, a previously in-clinic only treatment, all helped to appeal to a much younger audience and a younger consumer. And the mask was a hit. Like, right from the start, people really wanted to use it. It was receiving a lot of media attention. It had features in like Teen Vogue at the time, and Allure, which praised its innovation and its simplicity. And much like the LED therapies of nowadays, they had two kind of light settings, red light and blue light. Blue light killing acne causing bacteria, whilst red light helps reduce inflammation and redness, promoting healing, preventing flare-ups, and it has anti-aging benefits as well. But that wasn't something that was advertised with Neutrogena. Now, Neutrogena claimed that the light therapy acne mask would reduce acne, clear breakouts, and soothe inflammation without causing irritation, which, yeah, is LED light therapy, right? And that the mask would improve overall skin health with continued use. And that's the thing with at-home LED light therapy, you have to use it every single day. Initially, there was only one model of the mask, and this looked very much like a modern day LED mask. Well, actually, looking back at it now, it kind of looks like a 70s version of the future, if you know what I mean. It was kind of very basic, like a face shield with a hole cut out for your eyes. But unlike LED devices nowadays, it came with an activation device, and this was needed for the mask to function, basically. And this device came pre-programmed with 30 sessions. So this wasn't just like a remote that some devices come with nowadays. It wasn't like a charger, it wasn't anything like that. You had to have this external device plugged into the mask in order for the mask to work. And yes, it came with 30 pre-programmed sessions. Now, after these 30 sessions, users would need to purchase a replacement activation device for it to continue working. And we'll talk about more about this later, because that sounds Stupid, right? And the Neutrogena light therapy acne mask capitalized on the rising trend of LED light therapy, which had gained popularity mainly amongst dermatologists, as basically also like a non-invasive anti-aging treatment too. And as I mentioned, this was very, very pricey at the time. But priced at just $34.99, Neutrogena's affordability in comparison to expensive treatments for professional grade light therapy devices made it really attractive to people and a realistic option for average consumers. And this accessibility, along with a very successful marketing campaign and praise from celebrities and influencers, made the Neutrogena light therapy acne mask hugely successful right from the start. For a brief period, a very brief period, it was the next must-have big beauty product that everybody was talking about. You could not escape it. But as so often is the case with the products that enjoy this kind of huge meteoric rise, it wouldn't last for very, very long at all. I remember things very, very quickly going downhill. So here's where the problems begin to surface. Despite the initial popularity of the product, it wasn't long before, let's say, some serious concerns began to arise for both the consumers and for Neutrogena themselves. Now, there were a few safety concerns with LED light therapy being a relatively new thing to the mass consumer market. And one of the main concerns people had was regarding safety of the product. Some users began to report that prolonged use of the mask caused them visual disturbances and eye sensitivity. And although Neutrogena actually claimed that the mask was designed to block light from reaching the eye directly, many health organizations, including the American Academy of Ophthalmology, actually had serious concerns about the possible effects of long-term exposure to blue and red light, particularly for those really who already had pre-existing eye conditions, with some users actually reporting eye strain or discomfort, including light sensitivity and irritation after using the mask, even with safety goggles. They claim to experience transient eye pain or irritation, tearing, blurry vision, seeing spots, or even changes in color and vision. It's worth noting that the mask was FDA cleared as a Class 2 medical device, meaning it met certain safety and efficacy standards, but post-market surveillance by regulatory bodies revealed some concerns, let's say, particularly regarding whether users would actually follow the product instructions and use the protective goggles provided properly. And users were actually reporting that the goggles that were provided with the mask were incredibly uncomfortable and didn't even fit properly. And many admitted that they didn't use the goggles consistently for this very reason. And whilst generally considered safe for skin, prolonged exposure to intense light in these wavelengths can pose risks to the eyes, especially without proper eye protection. And in cases with people with medical conditions already, exposure to blue and red light could worsen photosensitivity, potentially causing discomfort, irritation, or even eye damage, of course. With blue light in particular being studied for its potential to contribute to oxidative stress in the retina, which might lead to long-term vision issues. And you'll see that these are things that LED masks nowadays take precaution with. They either completely block off the eye area, they provide you with goggles, or they simply tell you to close your eyes. So whilst this isn't something to be massively worried about, it's definitely something to consider. And definitely back then, when this was the first time people started using these kind of devices at home, where the only way to protect your eyes was protective eye goggles that the users weren't using, it was definitely something to be concerned about. Another major issue and concern was the recurring costs of this LED mask. There was growing frustration with the ongoing cost of having to continuously replace the activation devices that came with this mask, the only thing that turned the mask on. You had to use it daily, it had 30 devices, so every month you were having to replace this activation device. Although the initial cost of buying the mask was reasonable and, like I said, accessible to a wide market, the replacement activators had to be repurchased every 30 uses, so every 30 days at around $15 a time. So this cost was adding up quickly. It was basically like a monthly prescription, which might work nowadays, but it really didn't back then. If you did use the mask every day as instructed and is recommended in order to see results, you're looking at going from an initial cost of $35 to $200 over 1 year, which is essentially the cost of of an LED mask nowadays. But if you wanted to use this for the rest of your life, that's £200 a year. So many customers were put off by this model, whether they had had it for a month and had now had to repurchase a new activation device, or just at first glance, they were like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's a stupid idea. People seeing it really as an unnecessary expense and outright greed, honestly, from Neutrogena. And to be clear, the activators aren't a necessary part of the design for the technology to actually work, right? It's not like something in the mask was wearing out or being used up, like the LEDs weren't dimming and you needed that device to revamp it. It was just Neutrogena's way of forcing the customers into what was essentially, as I said, a subscription model, so they could continue to squeeze more and more money out of their customers. Neutrogena could have just made a good product and sold it at a one-off price, but they chose not to, and a lot of customers were rightfully not really happy with this. And looking back at it now, the device was definitely worth about $30. Like, it wasn't that nice to look at. It was flimsy. I don't think all the LED lights were really there. You know, it didn't have the power that LED masks have that we know this day and age, because again, it was fairly new. And I do think they were clever, because I don't think people would have paid over $100 for something like this, which was relatively new at the time. Nowadays they will, but back then people would have been like, this is a scam. Do we even know if this even works? So I think they had a clever idea, but a bit scammy, you know? Some people were so unhappy about this that people were working out how to hack their face masks so that they could use them without having to continuously buy the new activation devices. You could go on YouTube and find, like, people basically open these activation devices, changing a few wires around, sealing it back shut, and then you could use your mask forever and ever and ever. So you didn't have to buy these new activation devices. I remember these videos popped up not long after the launch of the Neutrogena mask. You'd go on YouTube and find them. And it was easy to do, so people were doing it, and Neutrogena were losing out on money. So the next problem was that although some users reported real improvements in their acne, plenty of others felt that the mask didn't deliver on its promises. Many said that they saw limited results or either no clear results at all whatsoever, even after extended use. A lot of people were very excited about this new amazing technology, which had received amazing reviews in magazines and from social media influencers and from celebrities, so people couldn't wait to get their hands on it. But as more reviews came out, real world reviews, the overall tone of the reviews started to change, and before long, there was more of like a balance of positive and negative reviews, with many of your average everyday consumers criticizing the mask's ineffectiveness, basically, and along with that, the cost of the replacement activation devices. So people became hesitant and people just became uninterested. They're like, nah, you know what, I'll leave it. I will say though, this could be down to user error. Maybe people weren't using it every day. You never know. People's skin is different. LED works great for some people. It doesn't work for others. Now, despite a lot of these criticisms, the LED mask trend then started to explode after the launch of Neutrogena's masks. And Neutrogena were kind of victims of their own success, with the popularity of their own mask creating a wave of LED mask dupes from other brands, kind of like really eager to tap into that growing demand for at-home light therapy devices and skincare devices in general. They had the market completely to themselves at first, but that really didn't last long. And soon Neutrogena faced competition from higher end brands offering more feature-rich and adjustable light therapy masks, including some of the most iconic LED masks we see to this day, like Dr. Dennis Gross, which offered customizable settings, different wavelengths and light adjustments, with time intervals, giving consumers like more control over their own treatments. Whilst other brands started offering rechargeable models, eliminating the need to continue buying new activators, these brands made Neutrogena's model seem even more outdated, their business model look greedy, and honestly made their masks look like a bit of plastic with some light stuck to it. The kind of shit you see on Temu nowadays, you know? Why would consumers want to spend money every month to use a Neutrogena, like a mask from Neutrogena, like a drugstore brand, when they could just buy a similar product from a competitor for a one-off price, especially when these competitor brands were kind of more in the mid-tier to luxury skincare market? There was that kind of like authority bias where they're like, oh, you know, this mask must be better. It's more expensive. It's not by a drugstore brand. You know, there were certain things that played into their advantage and ended up making Neutrogena's mask, which was kind of like a real pioneer of its time, actually looked like some cheap shit. They looked outdated very, very quickly. And this decline in popularity and interest and all these problems really led to this mask decline. And less than 3 years after its launch, the brand decided to get out before things got worse. At least they knew when to give up, right? And despite its initial success, Neutrogena voluntarily recalled the light therapy mask in July of 2019 and discontinued the production. They cited concerns was regarding the safety of the device as the reason for the discontinuation. And although Neutrogena maintained that the product was safe for the vast majority of consumers, they chose to discontinue it anyway in order to avoid the risk to those who may be more sensitive to light exposure, and likely also to avoid the risk of liability on their part. In a statement, Neutrogena said, "This decision was made out of an abundance of caution. Reports indicated the device may pose a theoretical risk of eye injury for a small subset of users with certain underlying eye conditions. While this risk is very low, Neutrogena prioritizes consumer safety." They did clarify that the mask was still safe for consumers to use. If they still owned it, you are fine to use it, providing they followed the safety instructions, right? And surprisingly, despite the continued popularity of at-home light therapy, Neutrogena have continued to avoid the market that they pretty much helped to create and haven't decided to adjust the design or their business model and re-enter the market with a similar product, which I find really, really interesting. And the fact they haven't re-entered the market has led some to question if safety was the sole reason for their decision to stop production. Some pointed out that Neutrogena themselves claimed reports of eye health issues were extremely rare, with the company claiming to have received complaints on about 0.02% of the masks sold at the time of the recall. So many believe that although safety may have been part of the problem, was it just an excuse? Like possibly the overall decline in sales due to the increased competition and dissatisfaction with their subscription-like model meant that the product line just wasn't making enough money to warrant Neutrogena continuing to invest money in it. That's what I think. It doesn't make sense to have a safety issue, which actually, if somebody sued, would probably cost them millions, but to not re-enter the market when you kind of already have a product that you could adjust. Even to this day, when every brand, not every brand, when a lot of brands have their own LED light therapy mask where it looks like a lot of people are getting the same model and slapping their name on it, it's interesting that they've not relaunched one. Bad memories, I think. I think it'll bring up a lot of bad memories for them. The decision to actually discontinue the light therapy acne mask was actually shocking to a lot of the fans of the product who felt pretty much blindsided by the decision, what felt like a sudden decision, and angry that a product that they loved wouldn't be available to them anymore. And that's understandable. If you've suffered with a lot of acne and finally found something that works for you, even if you had to pay $15 a month for it, you'd probably be annoyed if it was suddenly taken away from you. I wonder if they were able to hack their devices. I wonder if people are still using it to this day. Probably not. The LEDs need replacing. But despite this, there were also many who respected Neutrogena's decision to discontinue the product based on safety concerns, when a lot of other companies, let's be real, would likely have just ignored customers' concerns or made some small tweaks and changes and relaunched the product. And really, regardless of how you feel about Neutrogena's decision to discontinue the product, whether you think they had genuine concern for their customers' well-being or that they were just trying to cover their own backs, it can't be denied that the light therapy acne mask had a huge impact on the industry. It really did. The mask itself, the strategies used to promote it, really helped to popularize a previously unknown market and establish a brand as a leader in the steadily growing at-home LED skincare market. It's almost like they had to fail and suffer so that people can see what LED light therapy could do. Because like I said, they saw an okay example of it from Neutrogena enter Dr. Dennis Gross, who shat all over that Neutrogena mask. People are like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's not just a gimmicky thing. Maybe it's something I should invest in. Maybe it's something that is going to make a real difference to my skin. I feel like Dr. Dennis Gross, for example, has more of a trust behind it when it comes to clinical effects on the skin versus a drugstore brand like Neutrogena. And I do think that slowly changed the way people feel about LED therapy and LED light therapy at home, which is effective as long as you use it daily. You know I love LED light therapy. My favorite is the shark one. Previously sponsored, not sponsored here, but it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work and I'm happy paying a one-off cost for it, but I'm not paying a subscription model to. That's a lie. Maybe I would nowadays. Maybe I would pay a subscription model. If the software was updated and you could buy like new settings and stuff, maybe I would. If the one-off cost was a little bit cheaper, maybe I would pay a subscription model nowadays. Let me know what you think. That's sad, right? That I would actually do that. But I feel like if something worked, oh, I don't know. That's a slippery slope. What are your thoughts on light therapy? I know a lot of people have really good luck with it and it's life-changing for some people, especially people who had acne, rosacea. It's been huge for me. But yeah, they were undeniably arguably trailblazing that really did pave the way for a lot of at-home devices that are now mainstream in the beauty world today. From like high-end to budget options, LED masks remain popular, offering solutions not only for acne, but also now anti-aging, skin brightening, and more, with brands continuing to innovate and improve on the original concept. And although it wasn't around for long, we and the brands who are profiting these days really do have Neutrogena to thank for leading innovation in at-home LED devices and creating the market as it is today. Rest in peace, Neutrogena shitty plastic mask.